This is Motovore. I'm Tushar, and we've just had a quick blast on that, the Bajaj V12 motorcycle. Let's take a closer look. Bajaj claims to be selling over 20,000 units a month of the V15. We're sure the V12 is only going to add to that number, which should make the INS Vikrant the longest serving aircraft carrier in the world. Expectedly, Bajaj has made the V12 a spec sheet champion. You get the fattest tires, the longest wheelbase, 10.7 PS and 11 Newton meters, which is on the high side for this segment, and all at a cost which is just slightly north of a Honda. Lower displacement of 125cc of course means a lower price, which starts there. That is the new 125cc engine. This is not in fact a derivative of the 125cc engine that you see in other products from Bajaj like the Discover 125. This is in fact a 2-valve long stroke engine derived from the V15. So it's a long stroke and they've reduced the bore. What you get is a fairly torquey engine which also likes to rev, which was actually quite a surprise on the go. Other things that have changed to make this cheaper, you get this little keyhole cover in plastic instead of metal. You get, so far, only disc brakes. That's a 130mm drum, which is just about adequate. You get slightly thinner tires of the same type and the same pattern, which is still the widest in the segment. You don't expect to get a 190 16-inch tire at the back on a 125cc. You still get that accessory cowl which can be removed with those screws, and you don't need a tool to remove those screws. You've got that included on the key there. Other differences include slightly weaker headlamp. This is a 35 watt instead of a 60-55 on the V15. Everything else looks identical. Those wheels, although they look the same, are actually lighter units, which is also a good thing because this bike is among the heavier in the 125cc class at about 133 kilos. Thankfully, Bajaj has retained that exceptionally large and throaty exhaust system from the V15 on the V12, which means that when you are passing this motorcycle, or when this motorcycle is passing you, you actually know that there's a motorcycle on the street instead of the choodi payal chan remix that you would typically have from the chain lash of the competition. Riding impressions. That engine, 2-valve unit, but it has plenty of torque, likes to rev surprisingly. 60 to 80 is the sweet spot. It will go up to 100 without complaining too much, plus you get a free extra spark plug. Ride quality. 30mm forks up front, which is about par for the course, but down from the V15, which comes to 33, and you have gas charge shocks at the back. Ride quality is on the firmer side. Bajaj claims that they've actually made it more soft compared to the V15, but we found it still a little bit firm for the intended target audience, that is commuters. I, for that matter, did not find it particularly firm. It was pretty well damped, and it took care of most things we threw at it. My colleague did find that if you're hustling it beyond 70 kilometers per hour on slightly bad roads, you might get a backache. But you know what? If you're hustling this bike over 70 on bad roads, tu rider hai. Equipment: speedo, idiot lights, fuel gauge. Bas kya? Mirrors, they're there, they're ugly, but they work very well. Free monoposto seat cowl, still there. नहीं आंटी, इसमें ना एक ही सीट है. That actually happened. 130mm front drum eliminates the need for ABS because this wheel is never going to lock. Bajaj has learned a few lessons with their V15 and they've incorporated those learnings in the V12, particularly in the engine. The engine is surprisingly smooth. It is something that immediately hits you, particularly if you remember the V15 or if you just come off of V15. The V12 engine is a significant leap forward in terms of refinement. In fact, so much so that with the amount of vibrations that we felt with the original V15, I believe Bajaj has actually sorted those things out in the current production line of the V15. But if you remember those vibrations, it prevented you from actually attaining speeds that the bike was capable of. With the V12, you don't have that problem. You don't expect a 125cc to do 60 and 80 comfortably and beyond, whereas the V12 does. It's a surprisingly fun bike to thrash around on roads where you can't really attain 100 plus speeds. I imagine this would be an excellent bike to rent at a beach town, to rent around, to get around Goa or some such thing. It's actually a lot of fun. It tips into corners fairly easily. It's a little bit long-legged, as you might expect. It's got 1315 wheelbase, which is the longest in the segment. So it does feel a little bit long-legged in that it takes a little bit time to make changes in direction, but once it's changed direction or once you're tipped into a corner, it holds the line pretty well. The suspension, like I said, was for me quite decent, quite well damped. I did not have a big problem with its firmness. It's just a good fun bike to ride. So why should you buy the V12? Well, for one thing, it looks like a motorcycle, not a 3D printing mistake. Second, it sounds like a motorcycle, no Chan Chan remix here. And third, at that price, it's 9 grand less than a certain Italian scooter and probably as much fun.